Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So long time no see. So today is another rare, bright, sunny day in the rain season in Vancouver. I'm on the bus again to the SkyTrain station. And here we are around the Main Street Falls Creek area. The stadium is right across the water on the other side. So we are getting off at Stadium Chinatown Station to have lunch first. So it was a bright sunny morning. Now the sky is getting overcast again, but at least no rain, it's dry. So right across the street of Stadium Chinatown SkyTrain Station, there's this nice Udon noodle restaurant, and I love the way they're serving fresh Udon noodles all the time. It's so nice to have a warm bowl of udon soup noodles on a cold winter day like this. So I ordered my favorite kitsun udon with that tasty piece of marinated tofu on there, chicken karaage and tempura, and of course I did a sketch of my lunch. Yeah, so food and drinks are always part of our everyday life context. So after enjoying my noodle soup and tempura and chicken, I'm ready to sketch this heritage building with trees overlapping in front of it, above my lunch items. So I'm drawing a frame first, just so it's easier to fit all of those entangled tree branches inside a clean shape. Now I'm starting to draw this foreground tree just a few steps outside the window, starting to draw the boughs, which came from the trunk, and then these smaller branches split from the boughs. Yeah, so none of these branches and twigs are straight lines. All of them are kind of twisted curves in very lively forms. Yeah, so I got the essence of the foreground tree. Now I want to block in the heritage building, starting with the contour outline that I see, and another tree, little tree in the middle ground, obstructing it a little bit. Getting this column in. Now I want to put some people crossing the street. Yeah, so as you can see, these people are drawn in different sizes. The more closer to us, the bigger they seem. The more far away, they're tiny, like ants. And now I want to add this car, and I remember it's red, a really festive red color. And then I'm ready to draw the roof and a mailbox or something, and another person crossing the street. There is a tree right beside the heritage building on the other side of the street with a lot of very refined branches and twigs. Yeah, so winter trees can be fun to draw as well. It shows the spirit of that tree. Okay, so now adding some very tiny furry twigs. So the branches of the background tree and the foreground tree are pretty much blended. So I just kind of summarize what I see there in that pile of lines. Suggesting another tree there on the far left. Now I'm ready to block in the windows of the heritage building. Yeah, all of these are very stable patterns of similar shapes, and then showing the depths of these windows are sinking down into the surface of the building. Adding window frames, and then shade in some of the glass panels with solid brown ink to show that there's really a space, a room behind those windows. Yeah, as always, it's very satisfying to block in those window panels with solid brown ink for a sense of depth. Yeah, and I'm gonna keep going to fill in these blank spots of windows. Accentuate the eave of the roof a little bit. Now I'm adding a lamp post and also a street sign. There are a lot of things, so I'm actually excluding some of the items that I see. Now, I want to shade in the foreground tree, which is, yeah, it does look almost solid black. So it shows up better among the jumbles of lines. Yeah, so other than using lines to draw, feel free to, based on your intuition, to block in some of the shapes with solid black or dark brown or gray ink. Okay, and adding some tiny little furry twigs for our foreground tree. So this is just a very quick summary of my seeing. It's not exactly the same as what's out there, but a more simplified version. Yeah, that's it. My drawing that took about 12 minutes. Now it's time to paint watercolors. I'm going to start with my large tip Holbein Water Brush, starting to block in the sky area first, but putting a little tint of diluted yellow ochre first for a bit of warmth, and then cobalt blue mixed with permanent violet for this sensational overcast sky color. Okay, and grabbing some warm yellow-orange left over from my palette to warm up the scenery a little bit, and some more permanent violet to show the foggy tree canopy during winter times. And putting on some leftover bluish gray for the street. And glazing the heritage building's exterior with some leftover yellow. And then having fun painting the doors and some of these ground level windows with like Viridian green. And I love the old-fashioned green I remember from my childhood doors and window frames. And using the leftover blue-purple from my palette to shade the window frame area that's kind of carved out from the building's exterior. Shade these window bars with another layer of intense green, heavier value. And painting this car, I remember, is red-brown and shaded with purple. A nice festive color. And grabbing this golden brown, kind of a greenish color as well from my Mungyo palette to paint the middle ground tree, shaded with raw umber a little bit. And then adding shadow for the curb in very subtle little brush marks. Yeah, and shade the right side of the heritage building with leftover blue-violet. It's an overcast day, so it's very tricky to tell the contrast of light and shade, but I think the right side of the building is more shaded than the front. So it just made the contrast higher than it seems in reality. Yeah, so here's the look of my quick 25-minute ink and watercolor sketch. Every ordinary thing becomes more meaningful when we sketch it. And moving on, I'm gonna take the SkyTrain station back to Main Street, so just one stop. Here I am at Main Street, getting ready to cross the street to the Falls Creek area. Yeah, so this is one of Vancouver's landmarks, the Science World, and the Falls Creek seawall. And the stadium is right beside the Science World building, right over there. So the Taylor Swift concert took over place in the stadium over the past weekend. And I used to work at a preschool nearby in this area before the pandemic for about 4 years. So it's always nostalgic to revisit this location, the Olympic Village Plaza. Yeah, and I visited this Terra cafe a while ago and filmed a YouTube video. And these birds are artworks. Yeah, so the birds have been around for like 14 years. Now I'm ready to get out my sketchbook and my sketch kits to sketch one of the giant sparrows. Okay, so I'm filming using my iPad now on a tripod. So my phone needs to be recharged. And now I'm drawing the contour outline of the sparrow and the beak. And the giant legs, now looking like eagle's legs, in this gigantic size. Okay, so that's one of the legs, the belly. adding some wrinkles on the leg and the claw, and the other leg is looking a little bit smaller than the one in the front because of distance. And now I'm ready to add the eye for the sparrow. It shines in the middle. And then starting to draw the wing. And these feathers overlapping on the wing. Yeah, just follow the lines and curves that I see. And the stripes on the sparrow's head. Yeah, so it's a very common kind of sparrow that we see every day. And some more feathers on the lower part of the wing. Yeah, so my kitty Dudu is always looking at these sparrows outside our windows every day. Yeah, and adding some shading and accentuations between the feathers. Now, I'm drawing this restaurant building behind and the benches supporting the bird. Now, I'm drawing a guy sitting down with his bike. Now the sense of juxtaposition is very strong with this man and the bike sitting below the bird, drawing the 3D rectangular prism shapes of the benches. Yeah, and this part is like shaded concrete area for a bit of density. Now I'm drawing these modern style street lamps that are gonna glow red after dark. Drawing the roof of the restaurant building that's named Craft. And the large window frame. And another person walking his dog passing by. Okay, and starting to install these windows for the higher level of the restaurant building. And these birdhouse structures, kind of like attics on top of the restaurant building. And another person sitting down the far distance. And adding some accentuations and small bit of shade. Vertical window frames. Yeah, so inside the restaurant it seems pretty dark with some little lights and probably like a little Christmas tree in there. But most of it is shaded, so I'm using solid brown ink. And now I want to draw some pigeons or seagulls passing by. Another juxtaposition element with a giant sparrow sculpture. And these are apartment buildings in more complicated cubes and rectangular prism shapes. And with window frames inside those cubes and rectangular prisms. Yeah, so I'm keeping my lines of these apartment buildings in the distance fairly light lined, so it's not coming forward too much and compete with my foreground details. Now it's time to paint watercolors. Yeah, it's a little bit challenging to balance my palette and the sketchbook on my lap, but yeah, it's not bad. I'm pretty comfortable. Okay, so I'm going to start to wet the sky area a little bit with clear water and a very diluted yellow ochre. And glaze the ground area with the sunshine yellow ochre. And same for most of the things below the sky. And grabbing some raw umber to paint the first layer for the sparrow sculpture. And then grabbing pure permanent red to paint the restaurant building, which has this lovely Christmassy color, and same for the attic area of the building. While doing these parts, I'm letting the yellow on the sky area to dry before adding the blue and violet for the sky. Now, just painting these red and brown things under the sky. And grabbing some more solid raw umber to paint the dark feathered area of the bird sculpture. Using leftover gray to shade the bottom, the belly, and the chin area of the bird. And I'm going to keep intensifying the feather area of the bird by mixing raw umber with burnt sienna in the next couple of layers. And yeah, raw umber for the bird's legs. So as I'm layering, I'm mixing less water into that color. So yeah, the color is more intense compared to the previous layers. And when you're layering, try to use similar or the same colors. So for the bird's feather, I'm just mostly using raw umber or mix a little bit of burnt sienna into it. Now I just cleaned my brush to paint some cool colors inside the window frames of the restaurant building using like cobalt blue and mixing a little bit of purple into red to paint the next layer of the restaurant building, which is a little shaded. And now I'm ready to get some like cool muted colors for the apartment buildings and for the sky. It's quite overcast. So basically I'm mixing cobalt blue with permanent violet using a fairly diluted version to paint the clouds, and a bit of cerulean blue to suggest some hopeful blue sky opening up. Yeah, and the sky did open up later on, and continue to use the bluish gray to paint the ground area, and grabbing some lime green and cerulean blue and cobalt blue, mix these three cold colors together to paint the glassy windows on those apartment buildings and these abstract modern street lamps behind the bird. So I'm trying to use these blue-violet tones behind the bird to push the sculpture more forward, and adding some more very neutral tones for the benches. There are a lot of gray areas on a cold winter day, and I have a nice subject matter here that the restaurant building is a really vibrant red, and the bird sculpture a good brown. And the red restaurant building and the juxtaposition of the bird sculpture with everything just make this sketch look really appealing. And adding some more intense bluish gray on the belly area and the lower part of the cheek of the bird. So it looks more like spherical shapes. And final polish, adding a last bit of shaded areas on these buildings and shadows. That's pretty much it. Here's a look of my finished sketches of my early afternoon. And this page spread is pretty successful with the bird looking into the page. And goodbye bird for now, I'm gonna see you later. Now I'm ready to move on to a nearby cafe, just like a couple minutes walk from here. Now let's go, and I will see you around in the cafe sketch in the next video very soon, in the next few days. Bye everyone, and happy holidays.